this part, so Musashi's had this another clan, another group that he's been battling with, and the senior guy in the family, the senior guy from the school, died, he's died, and this 13-year-old boy is now the senior guy in the family. His name is Genjiro, and he shows up. So he challenges all these people to a fight, and he shows up, and they show up, and he gets there. It's by some tree, and of course it starts off, "Musashi, you're late," cried a hoarse voice.
He took a shit on my dinner table. Yeah.
Many took encouragement from Musashi's declaration that he was alone. Believing it was a trick, they started looking around for phantom seconds. A loud twang off to one side was followed a split second later by the glint of Musashi's sword flashing through the air. Oh, someone had shot an arrow at him. The arrow aimed at his face broke, half falling behind his shoulder, the other half near the tip of his lowered sword. Or rather, where his sword had just been. For Musashi was already on the move, his hair bristling like a lion's mane. He was bounding toward the shadowy form behind the spreading pine. Genjiro hugged the tree trunk, screaming, "Help, I'm scared." Gazimon jumped forward, howling as though the blow had struck him, but it was too late. Musashi's sword sliced a 2-foot strip of bark off the trunk. It fell to the ground by Genjiro's blood-covered head. It was the act of a ferocious demon. Musashi, ignoring the others, had made straight for the boy. And it seemed he had this in mind from the beginning. The assault was of a savagery beyond conception. Genjiro's death did not reduce the Yoshioka's fighting capacity in the slightest. What had been nervous excitement rose to a level of murderous frenzy. And so that's how he kicks off the battle. There's the 13-year-old boy, and he goes right for him and cuts off his head. So, and this is the first time he starts using both swords. I think this is the first time. Onlookers who had a clear view of him covered their eyes in horror. This is as this battle continues. More ghastly still was the sight of the dead and wounded left in his wake. As he continued his tactical retreat up the path, he reached a patch of open land where his pursuers surged forward in a mass attack. In a matter of seconds, 4 or 5 men had been cut down. They lay scattered over a wide area, moribund testimony to the speed with which Musashi struck and moved on. He seemed to be everywhere at once. But for all his agile shifts and dodges, Musashi clung to one basic strategy. He never attacked a group from the front or the side, always obliquely at an exposed corner. Whenever a battery of samurai approached him head-on, he somehow contrived to shift like lightning to a corner of their formation, from which he could confront only 1 or 2 of them at a time. In this way, he managed to keep them essentially in the same position. But eventually Musashi was bound to be worn down. Eventually, too, his opponents seemed bound to find a way to thwart his method of attack. To do this, they would need to form themselves into 2 large forces, before and behind him. Then he would be in even greater danger. It took all Musashi's resourcefulness to stop that from happening. At some point, Musashi drew his smaller sword and started to fight with both hands. While the large sword in his right hand was smeared with blood up to the hilt, and the fist that held it, the small sword in his left hand, was clean. And though it picked up a bit of flesh the first time it was used, it continued to sparkle, greedy for blood. Musashi himself was not fully aware that he had drawn it, even though he was wielding it with the same deftness as the larger sword. So he's just getting after it with 2 swords. And eventually, "Run!" cried 1,000 voices. "You fighting by yourself, run while you can." So he just crushes everyone.